Good morning. It's January 25th. The market's down because of Microsoft and other earnings, so let's get into it. I'm going to start here on Longbow with the top 25 because one thing I like to do is say, okay, what's going on? Are there any patterns? So on the top 25, you can take a look at the highest trading range odds to the downside. So things that most likely, given their trading ranges, could go down. And I'm not going to give you the answers here, but what I will tell you, there's about 9 real estate names on there. So we know that real estate's been popping. You can go and take a look. If yields go up, guess what happens to things with a lot of debt? Those go down. So depending on your macro view on rates and what the Fed's going to do, you might want to play this. And then on the left side, we talked about India yesterday. Well, guess what's on that list? INDA, as well as you'll see a few exchanges and some volatility names. So I'm going to start there, but then go to, okay, let's talk about Microsoft, right? And what might be happening in the next few weeks. We've got 70% of the XLK, so that's one of the big tech ETFs, that's going to report in the next 2 weeks. Remember, tech's been booming, but guess what happens when somebody disappoints? Obviously, tech goes down, the market goes down if it's a big enough name, and that's what we're seeing today. Microsoft is off its bottom of the low today, but I want to say, okay, if I'm using Longbow, how would I actually look at that name? Well, and that's, again, separate from the fundamentals, and I'll cover a little bit of that in a second. But what I would take a look at is you see the ticker Microsoft here. I'm going to click on it. And it's been staying fairly within its trading range. It hit its low. You could have made some money. It's up. It's a little bit off its high, but it's in the middle of the range. The range is tighter than it used to be. But we have a neutral short-term signal. So you can kind of see there, it's been a little bit flat in the near term and bearish long-term. So if I show you the Bloomberg chart, is basically, I guess, from your perspective, going down like that for the last year. A little bit up since the tech rebound. But that's what we see here. We see implied volatility. Do we have a discounted premium? It's basically at flat. So people aren't overprotective or over complacent on the name. And if I'm looking at the short interest, there wasn't much there. So obviously, if they had a good report, you're not going to see some big short squeeze. But at the same time, it's not like people were overly complacent on this name either. So I look at that and I say it's in the middle of the trading range. Again, what were my odds? It's near minus 1.0. So basically, I'm kind of in the middle of my range here. Upside of 373, downside of 374. So again, it's kind of a nothing burger. You've seen the stock run up a bit recently. Now it's given some back. And why did it give it back? So what happened, other than the Teams and Outlook outage this morning, that's unrelated to their earnings. But basically, you've got revenues up 2% year over year for the quarter, profits down 12%. It was below expectation. That's not really what was bothering people. And neither was the decline in PC sales from the work from home boom. Everybody knew that was going down. So their related revenues were down 19% and 45% on the profit side related to that business. It was really about what's going on in the cloud. So the Azure sales growth was 31%. People really are hoping it's in the mid 30s. Obviously, it's gone down a little bit into the lower 30s. And the whole intelligent cloud division was up 18%. So it's not like this company's not growing. Doesn't mean it's not a good tech company. But it really comes down to expectations. And then when management came on and gave basically a guidance that news business is slowing, they're really worried about spend by consumers and businesses, that's what gets people. But when I look at this and I say, okay, let's say you like Microsoft and want to buy it, obviously you want to be looking at the lower end of the trading range, and that number, again, changes every day. So you want to be looking at that low end of the trading range when you might want to go into it, and don't take that as a fixed number. You want to be looking at that all the time to say, when is that? But also look at the USD. The USD hit sales by 5% because of the strong dollar. So guess what happens? The dollar's been unwinding. If you think the dollar is going to decline over time, that obviously would move from a headwind to a tailwind. And you have to have your own fundamental view on new business and where the economy is headed, how that will translate into Microsoft's earnings versus consensus. So that's the fundamental way to look at it. But from the trading perspective, you can take a look at Longbow. Check out here the trading range. Where is it at? Click on the ticker. This will give you a better sign of maybe when to enter, when to trim, when to hedge a position if you own it. That's what we look at. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll see you back tomorrow.